My fiancé casually texted me while doing it with a guy who I shouldn't worry about, and she begged me to stay, but what I did instead made her cry like a goat. Our story begins in spring of 2016 when I met a girl we'll call Rosie. Well, Rosie immediately hit it off and began dating. Rosie was a shy, beautiful, and kind girl, but she had her demons. Her biggest flaw, and the one that caused the most issues throughout our relationship, was that she was a serial liar and just could not tell the truth or accept fault in anything. She kept up lies and hid things for months, sometimes years. I could give plenty of examples, but I think you get the point. But no matter what she did, I always gave it a pass because of her background. Her father abandoned her family, and her brother and grandma were misustive towards her. Most of our relationship was long distance since I'm originally from Mexico, but work in the US. Honestly, looking back, there were huge red flags, and I should have broken it off much earlier. Immediately getting into the relationship, she became extremely jealous/controlling and forbade me from talking/hanging out with other girls, made me delete all the girls off my social media, and forbid me from going to parties. I said fine, but that I expected the same from her. I respected the rules she made for me, she did not. She never missed a party, never respected what I told her, and on multiple occasions I found hidden social media accounts. Eventually, over time, I became the same way as her, controlling and mean. Even though our relationship was pretty toxic, there were also a lot of great memories. We would text/call/video chat every single day for hours and hours. I went to visit her as frequently as possible. When I was there in person, we had so many great moments together. Dinners, holidays, nice gifts, matching outfits, dancing, going to parties together, etc. But the most special moment was when we lost our V-cards together. The whole time we were together, she always wanted two things: to move out of her house and a baby. We had our normal ups and downs as in any couple, and so we dated and remained together year after year. Cut forward to about July 2020. By this point, I had become more mean and uncaring. The last few months I had been more cold because I was tired of the constant lies. She had basically been begging me to agree to marry her and get together when I went this year, but with the whole COVID situation, I wasn't sure if I would even be able to travel, so I would just say that I didn't want to talk about it. One night she mentions that she wants to start working at a new place, greenhouses. However, I say no because that place is infamous for how toxic it is. Most of the people who work there are young but pill-obsessed persons, alcoholics, and involved in gangs. How do I know? Because I have family members that work/have worked there and came out pill-obsessed persons, alcoholics, pregnant, or all three. Well, she said fine, I won't go, and that was that. Over the next several months, I noticed several changes in her schedule, her appearance, behavior, mannerisms, etc. She became more aggressive, would always have to leave at a certain time, and became noticeably much thinner. Also, she began receiving strange friend requests on her social media, including one from a guy that seemed off, and she seemed really insistent on adding him, but we'll get to who he was. Over all these months, I asked repeatedly what was going on and to just come clean, but she never did. Cut forward to last week, and I found out the horrible truth from some family members and friends. In July, she did start working there behind my back, but that's just the beginning. In August, she began hanging out with the wrong crowd. In September, she started talking to a guy we'll call Tony. Tony is a huge pill-obsessed person and is family with a local pill lord. How do I know? Because at the time he was dating one of my cousins, who he also got obsessed with pills. Well, I'm not sure of exactly when, but around that time Rosie began using crystal ice as well as other pills probably influenced by Tony. In October, Rosie began cheating on me with Tony, and Tony began cheating on my cousin with Rosie. I knew something had happened because 3 Fridays in a row, Rosie completely disappeared and ghosted me with the excuse of visiting family. But in reality, she was getting high and drunk with Tony and her friends. Throughout November and December, she would randomly disappear some days, including Christmas Eve, with the excuse of going to visit family. But in reality, she had basically become Tony's personal sex toy. He would get her drunk and high, then have his way with her, which he had done to many girls before her. The days after she would disappear, she would be completely out of it. She could barely speak. She complained about being tired, sore, sleepy, lightheaded, etc. I thought she was sick, but in reality she was hungover from drinking, doing pills, and having sex with Tony. The last 6 months of my life were a complete lie and filled with manipulation. Every day she would get high, drunk, make out, and sleep with Tony, and at night she would text/call/video chat with me. Sometimes she would literally be with him making out, doing pills, fornicating while texting with me. She would then literally go and call a video chat with me and act like nothing happened. Sometimes she would finish talking with me on the phone, then leave to go be with him. I know this because I would later go on to see pictures of them together at times when I was texting with her, and they would be seen together late at night. The entire time, I would constantly ask what was wrong because I could see something was wrong. She was getting skinnier and skinnier, and her mannerisms and body language changed. She never confessed anything, not one thing, and lied until the very end. She would tell me I was the one and only, that I was her world, that she wanted a family and to spend her entire life with me. She would send me revealing pictures saying they were for me when, in reality, they were for Tony. We would video chat and she would show me her body and brag about how thin she was getting and give me little shows, all the while giving it all to Tony. In October, I let her know that this year I wanted to move in together and get married, and even then, she didn't tell me anything. Then we get the worst part. How do I know she was trying to pin his baby on me? Well, she had always wanted a baby, and even went as far as lying about being on the pill just so I would have sex with her with no protection. But I never let it happen. She faked being pregnant twice, and both times I went to get tests, and both times they came out negative. So more than likely, she did the same thing to Tony. And well, since Tony is known to not be a good person, if he didn't want anything to do with the baby, she would need a backup. Me. All throughout December, she complained about stomach issues, pains, cramps, nausea, etc. But when I asked if she knew why, she would always say she didn't know. In early December, she randomly one day started talking dirty to me, telling me how the first night I arrived, she really wanted to have sex with me, but it had to be with no protection, so it would be special. Sound suspicious? On December 28th, we were all good talking about how soon we would be together and start a life together. Then, on December 29th, she randomly texts me saying we need to talk and basically tries every excuse under the sun to break up with me. On December 30th, I found out everything and cut off anything to do with her. Then 2 days later, on January 1st, she left and moved in with Tony. Why would Tony actually get together with someone when he had done the same thing to many girls before Rosie? Last time we had contact, she mentioned she quit using ice and was going to have blood work and tests done. So, what happened? Well, on December 29th, she more than likely took a pregnancy test which came out positive and probably told Tony if he wanted to be with her, then she would break up with me, and if he didn't, well, she would break up with him and let me get there without ever knowing anything. Now they are living together and probably going to marry soon. 4+ years with me, and she legitimately started doing ice and cheating within 2 months of meeting some random pill-obsessed person. Literally moved in with him, probably pregnant within 6 months of meeting him. I was with her for 2 years before we ever even considered having intimacy, but she gave it up to Tony in 2 months. Probably even less. So now here I am, broken and left in pieces. I can't sleep at night because of the horrible mental images of them together. I miss the Rosie I once knew, not the monster that is there now. Ice and bad influences made her even more of a monster. I have thought about ending life on several occasions. I'm on antidepressants and sleeping medication, and I start therapy on Monday. Update. It's been 2 weeks since D-Day when I found out all the messed up things my ex had been doing behind my back. The first week I lost my mind and completely went insane. Stopped eating, no sleep, would have constant breakdowns, etc. I reached out for help and got on antidepressants and sleeping medication. I also started going to therapy. All those things have helped, especially the sleep. I'm still not 100% over everything, obviously. I still get angry every now and then. My heart still hurts remembering all the good memories and imagining the person I once loved with another. However, these are only minor inconveniences at this point. The thing that has made the biggest impact on my recovery has been my mentality. At first, I let all that hate and rage take over me. I let it hurt me. However, I realized that I can't let the monster win. I can't let her get the last laugh. I can't let her see me defeated. I'm a better person than her or the trash she chose to be with. The life she chose to live leads to nothing good. She'll eventually come crashing down, and when that happens, I want to be there to watch it happen. I turned that hate and anger into motivation. Motivation to better myself and to be as successful as possible, mentally, physically, and financially. One day, when I inevitably run into her, I want her to see me succeeding while she wallows in the pit she chose for herself. I want to see her realize the stupidity of what she did. I want her to regret what she did in her life. Then I will have the last laugh. Then I will have completed my mission. Success is the greatest revenge. Stay strong out there, kings and queens. Final update. Hi everyone, this is hopefully the last post I will make on here. Today marks exactly 1 month since I found out who I thought was the love of my life had become an ice-obsessed person and cheated on me for months behind my back. The more time passes, the more I realize how lucky I was to get away from that narcissistic, manipulative, lying monster. The first week was without a doubt the absolute worst days of my life. I didn't sleep at all at night. I spent my days and nights walking back and forth, and all I could think about was how could she have done this to me? How can someone be so evil to lie to my face for so long? How could she sleep with another guy, then talk with me like nothing was happening? I had attempted ending life in the past and was considering trying again. As the days passed and I reached out to old friends I had lost because of her, I realized she was a monster from the beginning. I found out she had done this in the past. I found out she had kept seeing and texting with her ex before me behind my back for at least a year into our relationship. I found out from her ex-best friend that she'd gone as far as saying that if I didn't pay attention to her, she would try to get with my brother. She was nothing but a monster in disguise who had fooled not only me but my family and her family as well. As the weeks have passed, I have had good days and bad. Nights are definitely the worst, and now that it's been a month, memory lane is hitting hard. A lot of days I feel lonely and sad. However, no matter how bad I feel, no matter how much it hurts, no matter how much I miss having someone there, I keep pushing forward. It does and will get better. Turn all that hate and anger you have into motivation. Motivation to better yourself as much as possible. Be as successful as you can. Better yourself mentally, physically, and financially. You can't let the monster defeat you. You have to show it who's boss. You did nothing wrong. You were the catch in that relationship, and you have the strength to overcome this. They are nothing but trash, and you deserve so much better. My advice to anyone who is going through this is to stay strong and don't be afraid to seek help, advice. Reach out to family, friends. If you have no one, feel free to message me. I'll be happy to listen. Seek medical and psychological help if you need to. I myself take antidepressants and sleeping medication. Sleep will be one of your best friends. Change your mentality as I did. Use that rage as motivation to better yourself rather than letting it destroy you. Use me as living proof that you can overcome this. You can do it. You're not alone, and deep down you have the strength to not only survive but come out of this stronger. Stay strong, kings and queens. We all deserve better, and we all deserve to be happy.
Alright, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick? Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. All right, everyone's presentations are done. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me. There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. Still here? Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. I'm leaving. I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! What's wrong? Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. Probably Sam. Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. Do you know how much revenue we get from that company? We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs, gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized. Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason. What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do. I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you. Please. Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, yes. That's Nick for you. Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, "I'm very sorry." Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, "Get his boss here immediately." It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. "What is that idiot doing?" "All right, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next." Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. "If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you." I obediently followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. "Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize." Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. "What kind of training are you giving your subordinates?" Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed, I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry." Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." "Mike, what have you done?" Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. "I didn't do anything wrong." "You're still saying that? Look at him." Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. "I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract?" Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. "Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go." Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. "Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him." There's no way he was pushed aside. "Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he?" I don't remember that part." I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hope to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.